I've decided to swap out my Universal Audio Apollo X8P for the X16. Reason being, I feel like I need a little bit more I/O from my computer to run all of this stuff, and I'm not necessarily using the preamps as much as I'd like, which is a bit of a shame. However, I won't be short of Apollo pre's. I'll have 2 in the X6 and 2 in my Twin. Now, the problem with this process is I've got to recable everything. All right, the back of the desk. Yes, it is a mess. I will try and do some better cable managing, I promise. But the beauty of this Zoar Miza Flex X2 desk is angled 4U racks, which is really good for heat dispersion there. But also I have really easy access to these Wes Audio SuperCarriers, which is nice. And that below is the X6. That's my UA satellite, gathering some dust. And around the back, it's all the screen cabling. But there's the Wes Audio Titan and what's going to be the X16 down the bottom. And then, yeah, down the other end, you can see I've got the other rack on the other end there. And the tray comes out like that for even more access. So my plan is to basically pull everything out, all the cables, and completely redo it. I'm expecting about a full day to do that, and I'm just going to give this a wipe. That'll turn my girlfriend on for 3 minutes. And I'm pulling out all the cables on the Wes Audio SuperCarrier 2s, which are really good lunchboxes, by the way. They're really reliable. I've not had any power issues. And then for this rack, I'm just going to use a DB25 to free up these loose cables for some random patching that's going on with all the other stuff. So around the back, we have our input cables, which I'm going to do first. And then the output cables, which I'll do second because they're on top. And I'm following a patch chart that I basically figured out earlier. If you're gonna do 500 or any analog stuff, you have to be organized with your patching. Otherwise, this is just a nightmare to try and figure out on the go. So I've figured out all my racks, what everything is, what's paired together with the black lines. What number in each box everything is going, and then made a list of all the patches. So these cables are coming out of Flock patch. Flock sends 8 in and out of 8. So I know that because of the combination of stereo and mono units, exactly which ins and outs I need to go in and out of. It took a while to figure out, but it's well worth doing. All right, that's the inputs done. Now you might be thinking, why have I missed a few out? Well, if we go around the front, I've got 1, 2 stereo pair, but I'm going to daisy chain these two because I'm not really going to use this for anything other than drums. That's a mono unit, so hence the 2 gaps there and the gap there, and then these are mono units as well. So in a rack of 11, I only actually need 8 sends from the Flock, which turns out to be really useful. So then with these little patch cables, I'm linking the Serpent compressor output into the left input of the IGS, and then the Serpent output into the right input of the IGS, and then these will go back into the Flock. Now there's always some debate with cabling, which is really boring, but in essence, regardless of cable quality, which in my opinion is infinitesimal, the benefits of good cabling are nitric ends. Now these aren't the nitric ends, as you can see, these are just cheap, crappy Hoser ones, but it's the endings and the connectors that make cabling really expensive. These are about 1/3 of the price of the nitric cables, but they're really good because they're color coded, so I know what goes in and out, and they're all numbered as well, so they make it pretty foolproof. I'll put a link to those in the description. That's the middle rack done, and again I've daisy chained these 2 items on the end, which are the SSL going into the Wes Audio Prometheus, which is kind of a Pultec EQ, and I really like using that for some mid control and some side EQ after the master bus compression. That works really nicely. I did have all of these daisy chained together except the Raya on the end, but I've decided to use these, the Hyperion and the 542s individually for different processing. There'll be videos coming about these because that Hyperion in particular is unreal. All right, we've jumped forward a couple of months now. I filmed this video about 2 months ago before going on my speaker upgrade journey. So let's fill in a little bit more context. Part of the upgrade of the X16 from the X8P was, as I said earlier, I wasn't using the preamp so much, but more to get more I/O for running my 500 series, but also to take advantage of the improved conversion of the X16. More on that in a second. The X16 is now all routed with the flock and my fixed analog output chains. So outputs 1 to 8 are running my alternative speakers. The X16 has 2 monitor outputs, but if you want to run the alternative speakers, I can't do that off the X6, which is a bit annoying. So I have to use outputs 1 and 2 by default. Only those 2 will work for the alternative speakers. If I wanted a third set of alternative speakers, that would have to be outputs 3 and 4, but I don't need them, I'm just doing 2. Then from there, I've got my master bus chain, which is a fixed chain. I've also got another compressor, and I've got my outboard analog reverb as well. Outputs 9 through 16 are going into the flock audio patch, which then gives me 24 I/O on the flock to run all the 500 series. I'll probably go into more detail in that in another video, because the flock audio patch deserves all the attention it can get. It's one of the best pieces of audio engineering for studios ever, in my opinion. It's a fully passive, digitally controlled patch bay. There's no conversion on it, but I can basically route any of my analog series gear in any sequence on any channel, dragging and dropping stuff as if they were plugins in a DAW. Going back to the X16, the improvements on the conversion is interesting. There's an extra 4 decibels over the X8P, and I immediately messaged my contact at Universal Audio when I set this up, saying, am I right in thinking I can hear extra spaciousness in the top end and extra clarity and detail in the top end? And he said, yes, absolutely. That's what you're going to hear. These are our flagship converters. Now, the interesting thing is, since embarking on my speaker upgrade journey, I've had numerous distributors ring me and say, yeah, so now you've bought some expensive speakers. I think you need to be upgrading your converters. And I've said, whoa, hang on. One step at a time. I've blown all my budget on the new speakers and Trinov coming. And the X16 is good enough for my ears at the moment. I'm sure when I compare and A/B other stuff, they were suggesting the Aurora Lynx and merging technology stuff. I'm sure when I A/B, I will see the error of my ways and I'll want to upgrade. But for now, the X16 it's delivering. It's a very good converter as it is. So thank you, Universal Audio, for sorting me out with that. Now, the benefits of improved conversion were really hit home to me recently, actually, with the Focusrite Scarlett 4th generation. The old generation used some old converters, but the new generation uses Focusrite's flagship RedNet converters. RedNet, not redneck. I said that in the video. And the difference in quality in the headphone amplifier and the monitor outputs is massive. You can hear so much more stuff. And something that we discussed on my Working Audio Tools podcast with MSM Engineer is that everything from the computer, from the audio bin, a set of ones and noughts in the computer, to your ears is a filter, and that includes the converters and the speakers you're using in your studio, in your listening environment. So you have to be, if you're really conscientious about becoming a great mix engineer, in my opinion, and this is shared by a lot of professionals as far as we can tell on our Working Audio Tools podcast, is you have to minimize the influence of all this stuff to get the purest sound and most reliable and consistent sound. So part of this upgrade was to upgrade the converters. So I am then still the weakest link in the mixing chain. I want my mixes to be 100% down to my skill. I don't want to be limited by conversion, limited by bad listening environment, albeit this is compromised. I've done the best I can with it. And I don't want to be limited by poor speakers as well. So this is all part of that speaker room conversion analog mixing journey that I'm going on. So if you want to know what speakers I did get, because I have sold the Neumanns, I have upgraded to something considerably better. If you want to hear what those are, subscribe. Thanks for watching if you got this far. I've been Ed Dawn. If you have any questions about any of the 500 series gear, the flock, the desk, leave a comment in the below and I'll get back to as many of you as I can. It's been emotional. Thanks for watching.